Live and in color from the NBC News radio broadcasting studios of KCAA, 1050 AM, 102.3 FM, and 106.5 FM, located in beautiful Southern California, and in parallel from the Turf's Up radio studio in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Thanks for tuning in to the Water Zone show this evening.
All right, a pleasant good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on where you are in this wonderful world. Hope everybody's having a great day. I'm Rob Starr with my special host and producer, Mr. Chris Davies. How are you doing, Chris?
All right, Robert, thank you very much. It is this afternoon here, and as I told you before the show started, it's colder than an Eskimo's nose on the shady side of the iceberg today here.
Yeah, I can't believe it's like 60 degrees in Southern California.
It is. It barely got to 60. Just when I came upstairs to the studio up here, I looked at the outdoor thermometer, and it had barely cracked a 59.9 and gone to 60 degrees. So.
Wow, I thought it'd be warmer than that. It's beautiful out here in Arizona. It's 86 degrees. It will get down to 64 tonight. Sunny conditions will continue for the rest of the day, and some wind gusts will come up to 17 miles per hour, which starts around 4 to 4:30, so we should be starting to see that. We always get a breeze here in the afternoon.
That's pretty exciting. I just wish you were standing in front of a green screen. Sure, with a pointer.
I wish.
So, Rob, why don't you tell our audience, because we're missing Chris Austin from Maven's Notebook.
Well, we're missing her because she's out on business, and she will be back. She's out in Reno today, and she'll be back next week. But she's been doing a lot of traveling lately, so we can't stop her because that's how she makes her money, and we want to support her in every single way we can. Do you hear my dogs barking by any chance?
I don't know if that was Socks or Zero.
Both of them.
Both of them. Yep, I did hear them. So, hey, Rob, listen, give me a chance here, because I don't know if you saw this or not, but yesterday there was a CNN report, sort of a fear-mongering article, if you will, about I'm going to tell you, I'm frazzled about it, as you can probably tell by my vernacular, right? So it was all about disruptions to the hydrologic cycle. I know I sent you a copy of it. I hope you saw it, man. But I mean, just a weird article. Yeah. Did you see it?
Yeah, pretty interesting.
Well, let's talk. If you don't mind, I'm gonna make some kind of an editorial about it, since we don't have Chris here today, and it makes for good stuff, right? So basically, this is an article by CNN published yesterday, and it's entitled "The System That Moves Water Around the Earth is Off Balance for the First Time in Human History." That's actually the title of it. So, I mean, I've heard a lot of dry wolf kind of articles and stuff like this. So, I read it, and I kind of feel it's one of those as well. I don't know if you have any feelings about it, but basically it was saying, and I'll let you make a comment in a minute, but let me cue it up for you if you can, right? Because I think it's kind of a cry wolf one, but it's basically saying that for the first time in human history, right, the cause, humanity is the cause, rather, that's thrown the whole, global water cycle off balance, right? And it's foretelling about these global water disasters that are coming down. That's going to wreak havoc economically and wreak havoc on food production and on people's lives and all that sort of stuff. And I'll have to look into it more. So I'm not going to say one way or the other that I think I'm going to give it a thumbs up or thumbs down. But it just cites things like decades of destructive land use and mismanaged water management, kind of all come together, and you put that with human-caused climate crisis, right? And it's put some stress, or as they call it, I think, in quote-unquote, unprecedented stress on the global water cycle, according to this report, anyway. And I think that the report was by the Global Commission on Economics of Water, and I don't know exactly who's on that. I know it's just a group of international leaders and experts and stuff, but for our listeners, the hydrologic cycle, that's referring to the system where water moves around the earth. Water evaporates from the oceans and from the ground, including lakes and rivers and plants through transpiration and stuff like that. It rises into the atmosphere. It forms these clouds and things that we call, like the atmospheric rivers and things like that. So big areas of water vapor that's held in the atmosphere. And they travel long distances until they get to a land mass, and then they cool and condense and eventually fall back to the ground as rain or snow. That's essentially the hydrologic cycle in a nutshell. So this report is really it's asserting that the cycle caused from this climate crisis, right? These disruptions that it's causing are going to affect some 3 to 4 billion people on the earth already facing water scarcity and having trouble growing crops, and where cities are sinking into the ground because the earth is drying out, and it's they've got sinking earth and stuff like that. And they just cited so many consequences, Rob, about stuff that's going to happen, and 50% of the global food production was at risk. So many, 8% of the countries in the world are going to be affected by this by 2050, and a much higher percentage, 15 or so percentage of low-income countries are going to be affected. I don't know. We don't have enough time to go into it, but I'll let you comment if you want. I've said enough.
No. Go ahead. It's interesting. I'm just kind of looking at your cycle. I can't scroll anything on here. So, but do you think this is just a bunch of people got together and want to scare everybody and just pushing the more big climate issue?
I don't know. I'm going to look into that commission, right, into that global commission a little bit, because I didn't do a lot of research above it, but I did find it very interesting. But there's a lot to be said, and a lot of people have already said it. I mean, this isn't the first article to say that the water cycle is out of balance, right? I know the Global Commission on Water Economics is not the first one to say this, but I just read a couple of things in there, like the difference between what's going to be affected first, right? So you and I have talked about blue water versus green water before, right? So blue water is referring to the liquid water that's on the earth, that's in lakes and rivers and aquifers and stuff like that, versus what green water is, and that's the moisture that's stored in all the plants on the surface of the earth. It's the water that's stored in the earth itself, right? The green water is called. So, blue water is liquid water in lakes and rivers, and green water is the water and moisture that's stored in soils and plants. And they're saying that while the supply of green water is kind of overlooked, and it has been, we've even had people on our show talking about that, it's just as important to the water cycle as the blue water is, right? And so they're saying that half of all the rainfall that falls over land is sucked up and used as green water, and that's really what's at risk here. So, I mean, it's just, I don't know if we've been... Go ahead.
Well, the disruptions to the water cycle are deeply entwined, right? With climate change, I guess. And the stable supply of the green water, I guess, is vital for supporting vegetation that can store planet heating. And, and I guess I haven't seen the article, but from what I've heard about it, the damage humans inflict, including destroying wetlands and tearing down forests, is depleting these carbon sinks. And if you accelerate global warming in turn, climate change-fueled heat is drying out landscapes, reducing moisture and increasing fire risk.
That's it exactly.
The only thing I question is, there's always been climate change ever since people know about Earth. And it goes in cycles. So when I hear about things that are drastic like this, do I say, okay, is this going to happen? Because you remember there was this little girl from, what was her name? From like a Sweden or somewhere. I forget her name. Yeah. And she said, Earth is going to be nothing in 8 years, and 8 years has passed, and we're still here, and we're still growing stuff. Yes, we have somewhat of a drop, and now we have a little one. I don't know what to believe anymore. I mean, I got to believe it comes in cycles, and that we should know that. I guess the hard thing for us to know is how long the cycle is going to be.
Yeah, I think you're right. Right. I mean, there's a lot to this. So the question is, what can we do about it? Right. What are the things that the people that you and I already know is happening? Right. And of course, those are things like, better management of natural resources and cuts in planet healing pollutions and stuff like that. Right. The general stuff that we're talking about. And the issue is who's going to do that? Are we going to do it on ourselves, or is it the governments of the world? Is it the countries and the governing bodies in those countries that have to recognize what's going on and consider this issue as a common good issue, right? And then address it collectively.
Yep.
What is it? What is it?
Well, I don't know. They all talk about these world governments recognize the water cycle as a common good and try to address it collectively. And I think that's true. But we all countries are dependent on each other, not only through the lakes and the rivers that span everybody's borders, but also because of the water in the atmosphere, which can travel huge distances. And it's not only the water in the atmosphere. We're going to have some people on in the next couple of weeks who are going to tell you there's plenty of ice located around the world that they want to start using and harvesting. Yeah. So that should be interesting. What's more happening on the call to action? I guess
it is a call to action, right? And I think maybe we're at a point here where we got to stop complaining about it and start using it as a motivation to solve it. I guess, right? If you remember it, right? Historically, look at this. In the 1960s, the government said. All the governments of the world said, hey, the oil is going to be gone in 10 years, right? And then in the 1970s, they said, we're going to have another ice age in 10 years. And then in the 1980s, they said, acid rain is going to destroy all the crops in 10 years. In the 1990s, it was the ozone layer, right? That's going to be gone in 10 years. And then in 2000, the ice caps are going to be gone in 10 years. None of that happened. So here we are.
No, that's absolutely true. Absolutely true.
Is it another fear-mongering thing? I don't know. So anyway, good discussion. I just thought I'd bring that up. I found that as a compelling article, and I'm going to do more research on it. You know me, Rob. I'm going to research the crap out of it.
No, I totally agree with you. I find it fascinating of people come up and say, and I'll use the word stark predicaments. And I got to believe and want to believe that maybe they are very, very sincere. But I don't know how much of the facts they all have. That's why, like you said, you're going to go research it and do more. But when I listened to Al Gore years ago, and this, I can remember this little girl. She's not little anymore. She was a high school student. You remember was her name Thunberg or something like that? Yeah, Thunberg. Yeah, I may be pronouncing it wrong, but I mean it was such a devastating speech that she gave at the UN that you only got 8 years left and we're all going to go bye-bye, and that didn't happen. I mean, there's other things that could make that happen, like what's going on today in the world with all the crazy fighting that's going on all over. And I won't get political. I'll leave that alone. But it's a scary thought. So I don't know. It's good to discuss. It's good to think about it. It makes you think. Makes you want to go. Yeah. And we shouldn't ignore it. We shouldn't ignore people who say things like that. But we should think about it. Could it be real? Could it be? Yeah,
we haven't heard. We haven't heard much from Greta Thunberg for a good long while, but she's probably still on the scene somewhere. Yeah, she's pretty big. I don't know how much her following has been since the Earth wasn't destroyed. So I don't know. Yeah. Well, Chris, I appreciate that. That was really good bringing that up. It's again something that makes you go and we gotta think, even if it's different than how we perceive it to be or what we believe it is. It's always good to think there's always a different possibility. We got to be prepared for that. So, all right, good. We got a special guest today, and just to let our people know, we're going to go to our commercial first, and it's from a company called Site One Landscape Supply. They're the largest distributor of landscape supplies in the country, and they're also in Canada. And they're also, so everybody knows, they are a sponsor of this show as well. And so we're lucky enough to get one of their vice presidents of lighting and irrigation and other things. So he'll be coming on after the break. So stick around, and we'll be back in just a moment.
KCAA Loma Linda.
This fall, the partner points will add up like never before with SiteOne's Fall into Points promotion. For a limited time, earn triple points on all FX Luminaire products, as well as double points on Hunter valves, sprays, and nozzles. Hunter and FX Luminaire, industry leaders in irrigation and lighting, are here to make sure you're getting the quality and performance your projects and customers demand. Plus, for the first time ever, customers in the Hunter Preferred program will earn 100 Hunter Preferred program bonus points when they buy $1,500 or more of FX Luminaire or Hunter products at one time. Get ready to fall into points this September and October at SiteOne.
Welcome back to the second half of the Water Zone. Hope everybody's having a great day. We have a real special guest, Steve Counter, and he is the Vice President of Category. He's got 25 years of direct manufacturing, distribution, and contractor experience. He's been with the DeWalt Power Tool Company for 17 years. He was with our competitor, Rainbird, good company as well. And he's been 10 years with SiteOne, so he knows his stuff, especially how to run a business, and we appreciate him coming on. So, Steve, welcome to the Water Zone.
Thank you for having me, Robert and Chris.
One of the questions that we always ask, and I'm sure we've asked this before, probably 7-8 years ago, but we have a larger listening audience now, and it keeps getting bigger and bigger. Maybe you can talk a little bit about what made you come to this industry.
Yeah, it's an interesting journey. I actually spent most of my career with DeWalt Power Tools. I was with them actually for 17 years. For any NASCAR fans out there, that's the same number Matt Kenseth had. But after graduating college, I joined them, and I was driving around a yellow DeWalt truck and going to contractors and talking to them about why they buy the products they do and what pain points they have, or what they like about what they're using. And that role taught me just an incredible amount about contractors. And I've spent my whole career, even now, working with contractors. So that's how it started. I left DeWalt after 17 years, and that's when I joined Rainbird as a Southeast contractor, divisional manager. I was back home in Atlanta, where you can say I'm from. But again, I was working with contractors and the team there to go out and understand what they were using, why were they using it, and could we get them to potentially switch brands if they weren't using Rainbird. I did that for about 14 months, and then I had an opportunity to join Pramac. And I should have known better, nothing against Pramac, but it's a power generation company. And we were licensing the DeWalt brand name. And I used to manage generators when I was at DeWalt. And it was a bigger job. There was an opportunity, in my opinion, at that time to grow from a career perspective. But when I joined shortly thereafter, Generac bought them out. And Generac is a Wisconsin-based company. And the option was either stay in Atlanta or move to Wisconsin. And nothing against those who live in Wisconsin. I have a son who goes to school up there, but it's too cold for me. And I, called Atlanta my home, like I already mentioned. So I didn't go, and that put me back out in the market. But because of my time at Rainbird and working with John Deere Landscape, I had made some connections. And at that point, John Deere Landscape was going through a transformation to become SiteOne. And that was, CD&R coming in, buying, a controlling stake from John Deere. Them hiring, Doug Black, which is just a phenomenal leader that, is still at the helm here at SiteOne. And we started going through the process of going away from John Deere Landscape and becoming SiteOne, and then, going public like we did in 2016. But that was the journey. And I was lucky enough to land where I did. And, 10 years on, I'm proud of what we've accomplished, and I'm really excited about what the future holds for us.
Well, to prove you're a real Atlantonian, do you know all the streets that call Peachtree?
Yes, there's a lot of them. Yeah, people get lost here pretty easily.
Oh, absolutely. And tell me that you go to the varsity sometimes.
Occasionally, they got pretty good onion rings. When I go to a Tech game, when the kids were younger, we would go and grab it. But I don't get down to the city much. I live up in Alpharetta, which is north of Atlanta, near our headquarters. Oh. But the varsity is a good place. Anybody who comes to Atlanta has to try it out.
You're a good Georgia Tech guy. And how about the Bulldogs?
It's interesting. I got a split household. I'm an Auburn grad, and we're not doing that great in football. I haven't been for years, so I don't have much to say there. My wife went to Florida State. 2 sons went to Georgia. One is still there. I got a son at Wisconsin. And when I mentioned Georgia Tech, we would go to Georgia Tech games, baseball or football, because it was local, relatively inexpensive, and the kids don't really know better. But I'm an Auburn fan at heart. But my money goes to Georgia, so I have to root for them when they're not playing Auburn. And then I mentioned the Badgers, Wisconsin, and Florida State. So I got a lot of teams in the hopper. So if Auburn loses, usually one of the other teams might win or vice versa. So I usually have a good weekend.
Oh, good. Well, we cleared that up, so that was going to let Chris join in with a little bit more intelligent questions.
Yeah, no, it's good stuff. We found out a lot about
it. Yeah, people in the Southeast would talk football all day, so I could probably keep going for the rest of the segment and be fine.
I can tell you at Georgia Tech, the Cokes were at varsity was $7 a bottle, and 25 to 30 cents for coffee. So guess what I drank?
Yeah, that's right.
But that was a long time ago. Go ahead, Chris.
No, I've got a neighbor right across the street here who's a Georgia Tech fan. So believe me, I get all the background and all. And
they just beat Florida State and Ireland this past weekend, I believe, right?
Yeah. Yep. As he's saying. So, well, listen, Steve, great kind of background there and an interesting, journey through your career. You gave us a little bit of background about SiteOne as well, which was good. I've known SiteOne for a long, long time, and Hydroscape before that, and John Deere being in the industry for all these years. But, what's a day in the life of Steve Counter? What do you do? What does your team do, Steve? What's kind of like a day in the life for you?
Like I mentioned, it's just a great place to work, and it has truly been an incredible journey since I joined in March of 25. We have a great leadership team, like I mentioned, under Doug Black. I mean, he truly has a vision for SiteOne industry and what we're trying to accomplish. And all of this comes back to the customer, right? I just want to stress that everything we do, everything we focus on is about our customer first philosophy and improving our game to them. Like, how can we make them more efficient? How can we then make them more profitable? How can we allow them to grow their business, or help them grow their business, should I say, in various segments? So, we're in irrigation. We're in landscape, low voltage lighting. We're in nursery. We have an agronomics division with seed, fertilizer, things of that nature. We have a hardscapes division, landscape supplies. And I think it's one of the selling points of SiteOne is that we are a single destination for just about anything you would need to do a residential commercial job, no matter how big or how small within this channel. So that's a little bit about the company and our vision. And, I'll talk about it some more as we go through this segment. But, we've invested a lot of money to deliver what I mentioned already to our customers. And that is having the right product at the right time, at the right price, making sure we, are able to, train customers on local legislation and or product or proper installation. There's a whole host of things we offer, which I'll get into in more detail as we go on. But we've invested a lot of money, and again, it comes back to how can we better serve the customer. Now, myself personally, we're obviously broken into various divisions, just like any other corporation. We have a field team that really focuses on the day in, day out activities of customers via our brick and mortar branch locations, outside sellers that will go to customers and call on them. But we've also invested a lot in our marketing capabilities, which could be SiteOne.com. And that offers a whole host of options for the customer to be more efficient. They can anywhere check pricing, availability, schedule pickup, things of that nature. Category, which is the team I'm on, working with suppliers to make sure we have the best cost, best product availability. And hey, what is missing? What other products do we need to make available? We also explore private label options, which can provide some efficiencies for our customers via, product savings. But again, all of it is done with a vision towards how do we really focus on that customer and make their experience better and help them, grow their business.
Steve, geographically, Steve, branches or stores, whatever term, the distribution in this industry calls them different names. But you're coast to coast essentially, right? And
yeah, it's important to note. Thank you for calling that out. We feel like we're the only national wholesaler of landscape products in the U.S. And you're right. We're also going to Canada. I think that was mentioned at the beginning of the segment. We have anywhere from 700 to 800 locations across the U.S. and into Canada. Brick and mortar primarily, but .com. But we feel like we're building and putting together an offering that again will better serve that customer as they look to grow their business more profitably. And we feel like we're the only ones really working on all those elements to make that reality. It's not easy. I would say that historically this has not been the most sophisticated channel, having come from other channels and seeing how things are done differently. But think about Depot and Lowe's. When they transformed the do-it-yourself market, that they started in '78. Home Depot did here in Atlanta, opening a location, and look what that's become for all of us, right? And it's very similar. This wasn't a very sophisticated channel, and there are still a lot of things that we're working on. But we're trying to take a lot of the learnings from other industries and look at what others have done before us and say, hey, how can we emulate that in this channel? How can we make the customer experience better, be more efficient, provide the best cost solution, the best products in the shortest amount of time? So that's kind of who we are. So that's a really good question about SiteOne as a company.
Yeah, and you mentioned diversification, I guess, a couple of times in your comments there. Would you say, Steve, that kind of differentiates SiteOne a bit, right? I mean, you're not just sprinklers and grass seed and mowers, right, and tools and stuff like that. You've got Arizona Stone, you've got dirt and fill companies for landscape and hardscape. Those have been pretty recent acquisitions. Tell us about that a little bit.
Yeah, acquisitions are a major part of our growth strategy. On average, I would say we probably acquire 8 to 12 companies annually. We look for companies that bring value to the SiteOne model already. They're leaders within their space, within that market. But certainly, if you look lately, who do we acquire? It's primarily nurseries and hardscapes, because we're trying to round out that offering within a local MSA. So when I say MSA, I'm referring to a market like Atlanta. So we have a very good footprint when it comes to irrigation, lighting, but we're buying hardscape companies, nurseries. So within that market, we can be all things to all people. We can provide those solutions for that contractor that needs multiple products to finish a job, right? There are some who focus on a very narrow segment of the business and are very successful at it, and we want to be able to serve them as well. But there's others who really have to touch every part of that landscape job, being residential or commercial. And if you think about a commercial job, you're doing irrigation, you're doing lighting, you're probably doing some hardscapes, some pavers, things of that nature. You're probably putting down some, seed or agronomics. You're definitely, putting down plants. And so to have a one-shop, location that a contractor can go to really improves their efficiency and ability to buy everything they need for a job and not have to go to 3-4 different locations, different companies, different PO systems, invoicing systems, whatever it might be. So there's a lot of value in that, which we're trying to create across the country. Some markets we haven't done already. In other markets, it's still a work in progress, but we've made tremendous strides in the last 10 years.
Well, your organization has done very, very well, very quick. It grew quite fast. And as good as you guys run your business, you have product that you sell from various manufacturers, and some of those manufacturers make the same type products. So how do you evaluate your potential inventory customers, meaning people who sell you the products, which you have to turn around and sell to your contractors? What do you put on them to become a part of SiteOne's inventory?
Yeah, no, okay. I think I understand the question, and it's a good one. I mean, we also, from a supplier perspective, that's also extremely important to us, right? We've invested in a category team, which I lead for irrigation lighting, which really focuses on, the relationships we have with suppliers, and focuses on, are we doing business with the right suppliers, right? Are we carrying the right products? Are we carrying the right brands? Do we have them available? And so when we work with suppliers, we really try to understand their ability to provide world-class service levels. Do they have a reputation in the industry for having quality products? Are their products competitive or similar type products? And so there is a vetting that takes place with new suppliers that want to do business with us to make sure that they add value to what ultimately we're trying to deliver to the customer, right? I will say this, we're a mature industry, right? So we've been carrying some of the marquee brands for a long time. Obviously, you guys are sponsored by Toro. That's a brand we've carried for, since the beginning of time, probably similar with Hunter and Rainbird. So you'll find the marquee brands at SiteOne. But, part of the challenge with irrigation and probably other categories too, it's complex, right? There's a long tail of SKUs that go into being able to do an irrigation job properly, both residential and commercial. And so we have hundreds, if not thousands, of suppliers that we work with to vet and make sure that they're doing their part in the value we're trying to create, for our customers. If you take that one step further, though, and think about, hey, what differentiates SiteOne from our competitors? Because clearly, if we're selling, Toro, products, there's competitors that we go to market against that are probably selling the same product. And I think, what we've done in the last 10 years and what we continue to do is to focus heavily on investments within the business to, again, provide that superior customer experience, right? So I've already mentioned breadth of line in every MSA and the ability to provide every product that customer could look for. If I haven't mentioned it, we have a much more robust and efficient supply chain, in our opinion, than anybody else. We have 4 DCs already across the country. We're investing in a 5th DC. All of that is done to deliver the right product at the right time to our customers when they need it, right? And then you can go a step further. SiteOne.com, which we've been working on for years and has become a great platform for our customers to go and look at availability on product, like I've already mentioned, pricing, actually place an order, or schedule a pickup. But there's a lot more to it. You can also look at all the different products we have. We have a lot of features on SiteOne.com that allows customers to go and understand how to properly install something, and or, hey, how do I get in a new business? I mean, I think the one thing the Great Recession taught people of 07 and 08 is that, sometimes it's risky to be a single, sourced or single provided company where you only do irrigation. So we encourage companies to look at drainage. If you're ready on site, you can expand your business and diversify and protect your business if you get into drainage. Because when it's raining, you're not selling irrigation, but guess what you are selling? You're selling drainage products, right? And then lighting, lights, homes that are lit up at home at night, it doesn't cost anything with, the LED technology we now utilize, but what a difference maker. And you can go on and on, down the list. So SiteOne.com is a phenomenal platform. I encourage people that buy from us or work with us to go check it out. And if you don't, go into a branch or get online and, see what we have to offer. If you keep going, we provide Mobile Pro as a service as well. Think about Chick-fil-A. So you go to a nursery. Well, you don't want to go in these massive yards that are, sometimes acres upon acres in size, grab a plant and take it back to the front desk. You don't want to do that. So you can drive around with Mobile Pro and actually scan the products you want and pay as you drive out, just like you would, at Chick-fil-A. So that's one other benefit. Dispatch Track. This allows customers, because delivery is a big part of our model, to keep track of where their deliveries are. We actually have it set up too, where we keep them in the loop when we're delivering, what time. Pro price guarantee is another one worth mentioning. If someone has a better price locally from a competitor that's advertised, we'll match it. We have in-house line of credit for the larger commercial contractors, which is really important. We also offer management solutions, software solutions such as QuickBooks, Aspire, Hindsight, things of that nature. I know you guys are aware of SiteOne University. We do dozens upon dozens of trainings across the country annually to help our customers stay on top of product knowledge as well as earn CEUs. We also do that in cooperation with the IA. And then we have project services. If anyone needs assistance with project takeoffs or estimates, we can help you with that. And then we have a really robust partners program. So there's just a couple elements that I think differentiates SiteOne from our competition and, really highlights what we bring to the market.
Well, a great background from you. We certainly know a lot about you now, Stephen, a lot about SiteOne for sure, and a good roundup there. I mean, terrific. Even I learned a few things, and I thought I knew quite a bit about SiteOne. Let's talk about, now that we know about you, now that we know about the SiteOne, let's talk about the industry a bit, right? Where do you see the industry today? We used to ask the question, hey, how did COVID affect you, right? But we kind of passed that quite a little bit. But where are you? Where's Site One today? Are you on a good growth path? Are you kind of stable? Are you seeing the industry doing things that you were unexpected? Kind of, what's your feeling as of today?
I'll start by saying, hey, it's a great industry, truly, right?
Yeah.
But it's a mature industry. We have to acknowledge that too. And so we are tied to, macroeconomic inputs such as housing. And when housing is really robust and growing and strong, we feel that. COVID, if you were tied to housing, you had a phenomenal 2 to 3 year run there. And we were no exception to that. But because we're tied to the macroeconomic inputs, when housing slows, when there's affordability challenges, when there's high interest rates, things of that nature, we feel that in our business. And so the COVID boom from 20 to really call it 2022 has come and gone, right? It pulled forward a lot of business. That's the other thing that a lot of people don't recognize. Folks stayed home, did a lot of projects that they might have done in 2024 or 2025, but they did it a couple of years ago because they were at home, they weren't traveling, going on trips. But all that being said, it's a mature business, but it has a tremendous growth trajectory, in my opinion. And I think customers that are, somewhat diversified within the space they play, and that's no exception for Site One, I think, you have a good outlook on future growth. We do feel like 2025, there will be some recovery. We are seeing some positive indications around housing improving. I know interest rates here recently have dropped. We hope that continues. And maybe the housing affordability crisis will start to unwind itself, which only lends itself to future growth and opportunity for Site One. So we're really excited about what the future holds. Other thing we're challenged with right now is deflation on certain categories. Pipe and seed and things of that nature, and that's hard to combat, right? As a business person, it's hard to come over deflation on certain categories when it could be up to 25%, if not greater, which really has a material impact on not only our financials but our customers' financials too. But again, there's a cycle to it all. We feel really good about, I think, where 2025 is heading. And we're excited about the industry and what we have to offer customers, and what we'll continue to work on to be the best, distributor of choice. That's part of our vision, being the distributor of choice for our customers as we continue down this road.
Well, let's get into a term that's cropped up a couple of years ago, and the word is sustainability. And, sustainable development is important for our company, your company, and such. But people need to understand that balancing the need, for water and energy will be matching that against the needs of the planet for today and what's going to happen in the future. How does your company take a look at sustainability?
Yeah, that's another good question, Robert. This is really, really important to us, and it should be important to everybody who's listening. Both of you, and I know it is. We have a role to play in this concept of sustainability. We clearly support any and all regulatory mandates, state or federal. So PRS is an example, pressure regulated spray heads, where we support that. It's more expensive than the traditional spray head, but it's absolutely more efficient. It's the better product to utilize. So we are very supportive of those kind of changes locally at the state level. Via Site One universities, which I already mentioned, we have customer training on proper installation techniques. They can earn, like I said, CEUs by doing that. We also work very closely with IA. They're a huge proponent of this industry and where we're trying to go and what we want to do. And I don't think we can do it without them. I think Natasha leading the charge there is a phenomenal leader and is going to take us to great places. But an example of that is, I had the opportunity, along with several other folks in IA, to fly into DC in March. And it's an annual event. But we actually go and sit down and meet with Congress, men and women, and talk about, the industry and why this is important, right? Because what we do is pretty cool, right? We make things nicer. We make things prettier. We make things more beautiful. That can be a residential, that can be commercial, that can be, public space. But we go in there and we try to make them aware of the industry so they know who we are. We go in and support the Farm Bill, and you might be like, why would you be supporting the Farm Bill? But there's, labor and other attributes involved in that does impact our industry as well. Immigration reform is one of them. It's important to all of us. There's not enough workers out there. So how do we get more workers into the system to allow us to do the jobs that need to be done? Water Conservation Rebate Tax Parity Act. That's a lot. But what that basically says is when we have other rebates available via the energy companies, it's not taxed. But for whatever reason, water incentives are taxed. So we're not asking to be treated differently. We're just asked to be treated the same. Another one is Freedom to Invest in Tomorrow's Workforce Act. Treat it like a 529 plan. We can do that all. A lot of us probably are investing in 529 plans for our kids, but that's not available via the irrigation industry. And it should be, right? It's a trade like any other trade. So again, we don't want to be treated differently. We just want to be treated equally. So there's a lot of work we also do with IA, to advance causes for this industry. And then there's one other important note I'll make about what we do specifically. We have an annual controller trade-in program. We will be year 5 early next year. We usually kick it off in March and April. And this is where we, work with contractors that take old clocks off the wall. We call them dumb clocks, as you all know, right? There's probably 20, 30 million of them that have been installed over the last few decades out in the industry. And we incentivize that contractor to buy a new smart controller that they can put on that wall in place of that dumb clock, which saves the end user, the customer, from the contractor's perspective, money, because you're using less water and it's more efficient, and it just ties directly into the same sustainability concept. It's harder than it sounds to do that, right? To ask a customer to act upon something and bring in an old controller to get a discount on a new one it's not an easy ask. We recognize that, but I would tell you that we have over the last 4 years consistently had thousands upon thousands of old controllers traded in to install new Wi-Fi smart clocks that save and conserve water. And then we take it one step further. Those controllers, we don't throw them in the trash can. We actually have a partnership with Blue Star Recycling. We ship those controllers to Blue Star, and then they recycle the components of those controllers. So sustainability is huge for us. We will continue to drive and pay close attention to the part we can play in that concept.
Do you see in the water agency business and for manufacturers, we seem to be going through what I call a gray wave, where people are older and they're going to start to retire. One of the things that I was talking to Natasha, who's just for our listening audience, who's the CEO of the Irrigation Association. A couple of years ago, I put together a thing with the Bureau of Indian Affairs. They had a high school out in Riverside. And we took several students from sophomore up to senior and educated them through the IA. So when they graduated, they were a certified irrigation auditor. And that's a great job right off the bat for somebody. And I don't know, talking to a lot of legislators, they all say it's a great idea, but I never get them to come up and pony up with a report or a bill to fund some of that stuff. Because I think that would be great. Because they were in a shop, wood shop and metal shop at high schools, and I listen a lot to Mike Rowe.
Great show.
I've been in conversation about this project that I'm trying to kick off, that we ought to talk to some people from the industry and do it, and then get a whole lot of PR about it, and that way push it back on the legislation people to make that real and happening, so the schools can get money to do that again. Because there's kids that are not meant to go to college, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, you can be a welder and make 6 figures. I mean, and same thing with landscaping. So do you see a change that needs to happen in that industry for moving the older people moving on and creating a new generation of people?
Yeah, I mean, first off, we value the older people, right? I think I'm becoming one of them potentially at this point, but we don't want them to move out too fast. There's a lot of knowledge there, but you've touched on something that should be, again, similar to sustainability, important to all of us, right? And I think we try to work locally with various organizations to try to get interest within this channel and joining Site One specifically. But I do think that there's a case to be made, and I think the IA is the right vehicle to get there, where we can start to maybe take the approach you just described, right? I mean, I kind of talked about the Freedom to Invest in Tomorrow's Workforce Act. I mean, that's an obvious one. And I'm a huge believer in the trades. I have a stepson who's a plumber. I got another stepson who's an electrician. They did not want to go to school. So it's like, hey, go do a trade. And so I think collectively in America, we kind of missed the mark on trades and the ability to market that to younger people. But we are trying to do our part. I think working with IA, we can continue to maybe advance that cause. But I also think there's things for us to consider, right? I mean, if water is this precious resource we say it is, which it is, should we consider a different way of how we allow irrigators to go install products? Some states it's required to have a license, right? Where they actually have to go get formally trained. And you could say, elevate that industry within that state because of that barrier to entry. Well, there's other states where anybody can go install an irrigation system and not properly. And, people see that. So, it's raining and the sprinkler's on. Well, that does not do us well as an industry. That does not put, our best image forward. It may not be raining and they're spraying the sidewalk. And so I think there's other things we can also look at about how do we elevate this industry, really treat water like the precious resource it is, which will attract more and more talent. And I also think, though, because of what SiteOne is doing, we are trying to transform the industry. There's others who have tried to emulate us. I think we're also collectively, raising this industry and bringing more focus to it and how important it is and making it more professional, right? And so I think we all play a role in that. But I do agree with you, Robert, that's a long-term vision that we should all work towards. And again, I think the IA can play a big role in that process, along with all of us, the supplier base, the distributor base, et cetera.
Well, I'll tell you, that was a great description, Steve, for sure. And, our show is called The Water Zone, so we focus on everything water. 10 years ago, water used to be the occasional news story. Now it is the news, right?
That's right.
I mean, especially in drought areas like us. I mean, even you, right? Just a few years ago, your lakes were empty. The TVA didn't know, where they were going to get their next gallon of water from. So it is a big issue. So if I can ask you this, just one last question. We got a few minutes left here, Steve. Taking a kind of forward-looking view, right? Looking forward, this industry itself, the water segment, whatever you want to call it, wastewater, anything related to it, kind of give us your view. Where do you see it going, and where do you see SiteOne fitting in?
Like I already mentioned, I think the industry in total is very, very strong. I don't think the services we provide will ever go away. Whether or not it's irrigation or if it's lighting or hardscapes or nursery, it is a part of our local communities. It's important to us. It's the beauty I mentioned before. It's the water conservation that we've talked about, et cetera. So I have a really positive outlook on the industry. I think we'll continue to evolve and get better and better. And I think, we have a company here at SiteOne that's really trying to do its part to deliver on some of the things we talked about around sustainability, taking care of the customer, giving them an opportunity to grow their business and, do everything we discussed. So it's I would tell you the outlook is very, very positive. In my opinion. Hey, we're going to have challenges. You mentioned it, right? Out west, it got really, really dry. Well, that just changes maybe the installation technique. It doesn't mean you stop irrigating.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe you just get away from above ground techniques and you go to micro irrigation, to really conserve water. Maybe you go to a more of a xenoscape or hardscape type landscape where, you plant native plants or plant nothing at all. All those things, SiteOne is uniquely, I think, positioned to provide those products, that expertise and that guidance. But we as an industry will just have to be flexible, because I do think this weather side of the equation is going to continue to become more and more unpredictable, and it's going to throw us curveballs, and we're going to have to quickly adapt to that. And I think we also, though, owe it to all of us to look out ahead and say, what can we do, like we already talked about, to conserve water before it becomes a problem, right? And that's important to us too. And I know it is for you also.
All right. So, Steve, one last offer for you to do a shameless plug, buddy. If people want to find out more, we have a lot of listeners, Steve, right? Agents, water agencies, contractors, people from government, all that kind of stuff. Lots of people listening here. If they want to find out more about SiteOne, everything you talked about, not just the products, but the programs and the things you offer, just look at your website. Is that the first place to go?
I think that's probably the best place to start is site1.com. It really will show all customers. You don't have to have a customer number or name to log in, right? You can go and peruse the site and understand our breadth of products, what we offer. You can see some of the value adds I've already talked about and the other solutions we bring to the market. If you are a customer with a customer number, that's where you can log in and see your price and you can see availability. You can go ahead and place an order. So I do think probably the best place for anyone to start if they're interested in developing a relationship with SiteOne is to go to our website and or go to a local store. I hope you're greeted properly. We welcome new customers. We want to hold on to the customers we have. And I think I'll end by just saying we truly value the contractors' business that they bring to us. We will continue to try to earn it and do the right things by them. But a big thank you to the industry and to our customer base for all the support. We truly appreciate it.
Appreciate that, Steve. I'm going to just do a little quick plug because I saw something I just got reminded of. You guys, SiteOne, were doing a podcast at one time called Confessions of the Craft. Is that still going on?
Yeah, actually, our marketing department has done a few of those, right? And you can find them online under different product segments. And it really gives kind of the tips of the trade and, gives some pointers to the industry and folks. And so we have done several of those. It's still an ongoing process. We actually have somebody on my team, Sean Sandick, who's just fantastic, and he's creating his own little podcast and short little videos to help customers understand all the resources and tools that are out there for them to utilize. And maybe it's just like I said, a quick tip on a better way of doing something, but doesn't take anybody more than a minute to listen to it, and they might learn something. So we enjoy learning, but we also enjoy sharing that knowledge with anyone who's willing to give us their time.
All right, perfect. Lead us out, Rob.
Well, Steve, we really appreciate you coming on the show, and you're more than welcome to come as much as you want. We enjoy that. We enjoy SiteOne, as I said before, and I'm not saying this because we're talking to you. I am a good customer of your store, and I appreciate the service, the people, very knowledgeable. If I come in and ask a question, they have the answer, so I appreciate that. So thanks a lot for joining us. We appreciate it, and we'll probably see you at IA.
Yes, look forward to it. Thank you, Robert and Chris. I really appreciate the time and look forward to our next opportunity.
Well, it was a pretty good conversation with Steve.
I thought it was fantastic, buddy. And, he's SiteOne in general, right? They've just got a great vibe. When you go in their store, you can feel it, you can see it. They certainly are diverse in what they offer, including all the stuff that Steve was talking about on the hardscape side of the business, pavers, all the way to dirt, right? So, great company.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're a great sponsor to Toro the last couple of years, and we appreciate that very much, and we love doing stuff with them. And, with the podcast that you were talking about, we get some 3-minute shots at some of those training films that they send, and we replay them every other week. So that's a good thing for them. So I recommend going to them. They're great people, great pricing, and you can find everything you ever need about landscape and hardscape supplies with them. So that's it. Chris, that wraps up the show. Next week, I do want to talk about this other article about how San Francisco takes on the EPA in a case about poop.
Yeah.
And a $10 billion fine they got. So that should be kind of a funny story. Somebody said that's a crappy story, but I think it's going to be a funny story.
Yeah, we're going to have to queue up Chris Austin to comment on that herself as well.
Yeah, she can give us the real skivvy on that. All right, people, thank you for listening in. We appreciate it. Chris and I enjoy doing the show, and we'd love to hear from you. Anything and topics you want to talk about or suggest that we cover, send us an email and we'll contact us, and we'll be glad to comply and do something with that. So have a good week. And one thing Chris and I always tell you to do every single week is please help keep our planet blue. And if you like green, you got to have blue. So Chris and I were sitting together. We can do that more in sync. So we're going to do it in that video. So good night, everybody.
Thanks for tuning in, folks.